I'm laughing because it's kind of funny watching an engineer work without headphones. I just want to go with that, and then I'll just edit this out later on. Or I think it's funny, I'll keep it, and you have to deal with it. Hi, I'm Greg. Welcome to Ask Mom and Dad, our twice a week now podcast where Tanya and I sit down. That's my wife, just in case I've never told you her name.
That'd be me.
That's her. And have conversation about what it is to do life together and what it is to be well, I was going to say good parents.
Answer questions.
But the truth is the good parenting thing is still a judgment call that is out. So far, we're pretty comfortable with what's going on with our kids. And so that brings me to today's subject. I thought it would be kind of interesting to take a day and do something we've never done before. And that is to interview somebody
talk
that's
to our
very
kids?
special to us.
Because we've done that before.
We talk to our kids, but we've never done it in an environment where they're actually in this environment with us.
Okay.
Well, you might have heard the beginning of this podcast, which has music playing. You know, you might not recognize that voice, but that voice is someone very near and dear. Most of our children refer to her as our favorite daughter. I will leave that one for you to judge as well. It's not true. She's not our favorite daughter. She's just, preferred. So with that being said, we've had her. That's her song. She wrote that song.
She's our youngest daughter.
Well, that just doesn't help the favorite daughter status, because if she's our youngest daughter, everybody thinks the babies are the favored. So that means Elijah's our most favorite child. So
I am the favorite daughter.
She is. Okay.
No,
according to you.
I'm the favorite child.
According to
the truth.
According to the prophecy.
According to the prophecy. The prophet Micaiah said so.
Hey,
and that would be the old prophet, not the new prophet,
actually,
or some old prophet that's new. Anyway, as you can see, we're good at rambling as a family. And so the configuration for this episode is a little bit differently as far as how you can see us. If you're not watching us, why not? My wife says, why would you do a video podcast? Nobody watches podcasts on video. Let's prove her wrong.
What I meant was,
both of you.
If you're not watching, you wouldn't be able to see me double fisting water and tea right now, which is probably the best thing you can do for your body.
There you go.
Double fisting water and tea right now.
Water in one hand,
and
tea
herbal
in the other.
tea nonetheless.
Yeah,
it's herbal tea. The
Wild Sweet Orange by Tazo, not sponsored. But delicious.
Do I need to start this all over again? All I want to say is to both of you out there who listen to us, we're so glad that you chose to tune in. If you're listening right now, please go to YouTube and check it out so you can see the goofy faces that my wife makes sometimes when I try to tell a joke. Also, if you haven't seen us there and you're driving, don't go to YouTube. Just keep driving and keep your eyes on the road. Watch us later, because this is the most insane opening I have ever done for this show. We are mainly doing that because I don't know yet what we're going to talk about today, but I do want to introduce you to the author and composer, performer, and I think that covers all of the adjectives that are necessary to say that she wrote the opening and closing song. This is Micaiah Lazinski. No relation.
Lazinski.
Micaiah Lazinski, no relation. Her stage name goes as Micaiah Sawyer, very related. And she kept that...
So when you're married, you're
right. No, that's a
anymore?
good point. So me and my daily life and who I am just normally, I have no relation to the Sawyer family. But the potential for fame version of me, that the person who might make him money someday, maybe he's always at least joked about that,
So your husband is a PFC. He's a private first class.
That's
you are a PFC. You're my potentially famous child. And so that works for me anyway.
Very good one.
Or just sugar daughter? What is that?
So
sugar daughter.
What does that even mean?
We thought we would talk to her because she's actually leaving
Speaking
us,
of the military.
which is, really sad.
Her husband has decided that he wants for
good
her
in
to
a lot
live
of ways,
with him again after a year of abandoning her to Texas where he's been
What
trained.
a weirdo.
I know, strange. How's your dating life been?
It's great. I have a boyfriend, but don't tell my husband.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll keep it quiet.
And he's probably about 2 feet tall. And you've got one that's 2.5 feet tall, one that's 2 feet tall, and one that's like 1 feet tall.
You're trying to make it innocent, but it sounds like she's dating midgets.
It sounds a little.
I was talking about her nephews.
I was like,
because she's going to have to leave them, and they're all going to be sad, except for one of them's going with you.
I know how now to get this video to go viral. I just have to say, Ask Mom and Dad, conversations on dating midgets, and
something horribly inappropriate. You said one more. What was your question? What was it?
I was commenting on how one of your nephews is going with you.
Yes.
And the other two are going to miss you. And what I
Yes,
said
that's
was,
true.
it's going to be the first time you've actually lived away from us. So
Yeah, so I'm stressed about that.
Well,
How
and
are
I'll
you-
take the opportunity as well to say that this might be the last time you see us in a format like this, because she's also taking with her my engineer, because technically it's her engineer. And so her and
That's
her
how it's
engineer,
done, folks.
she did this stupid thing by offering them money to go. And I think that's just cheating, but it's okay. And so they're going to Texas, right? And you're going to try and make it
Going to
Texas
Texas.
big. Everything's bigger in Texas. So
I was thinking,
That's
what
true.
things
Texas
are
is
you
bigger than
excited
everything.
about? Do you know what you're going to be doing when you get there? I mean, I know some things are kind of
I
tentative
have a
yet. You're
loose-
looking for a house still, right?
Yeah. I have a rough, loose plan of action.
Rough and loose.
A rough and loose plan.
But-
Because nothing in my life is ever stable. So I have to.
And some things are a little stable because you're taking some of your students with you a little bit, right? So that's kind of cool.
Some of my students.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
That's
I am currently teaching in person, and I'm going to take some of those with me on my phone / computer.
Zoom has made it mobile.
I was going to
possible,
say,
right?
in the
Yeah.
new technology age, we
Yeah,
can
one of
take
the
our students
yeah.
to Texas with us when we leave.
It's like a blessing and a curse because I'm not obsessed with virtual teaching. It's kind of like weird. It's just not as personal and not as like, I don't know. Like, it's just not the best way to do
Well,
it
it's
in
not
my
as
opinion.
intimate,
But
yeah.
well, yeah. And I don't know. I don't feel as free to like. It's just harder for me to focus. It's harder for them to focus. In general, virtual learning is not ideal in my opinion. But it's good that we've already adjusted into this a little bit because I can teach some of them virtually and keep in contact with those students as well as like continue to build my repertoire. And
Yeah, so it's not
yeah.
one
Excited
benefit
about
from
that for you.
COVID, if we can say there has been any, is that you've been able to. Which it's interesting though. You had been teaching for how long before COVID hit?
I was teaching for
a few days.
like literally
I was gonna say-
like 2 weeks.
You haven't been teaching that long. It feels like you've been teaching there
The
forever.
first like 3 months of teaching,
You were-
3 to 4 months of teaching,
you
it was
didn't
all
even,
virtual.
Yeah, you didn't even get to meet your students
Yeah.
one-on-one.
Well, and we've jumped right into the fact that you're teaching, but real quickly, since the couple of people in our audience probably don't know this or not, you don't just write one song. You've been, your goal for as long as I can remember has been to be able to compose music, and you've shifted in how that looks. But tell me a little bit about where you are, what you're doing, kind of where you. There's a lot of questions, but what are you seeing happen? What do you want to see happen with your career as far as writing songs, performing them? I mean,
Well, that's
a
what
broad
I asked
thing.
her about when she goes to Texas.
What
What,
are you
she
ex-
was excited
yeah,
about.
what are you
'cause
excited
she's
about?
got some
Well, I'm going to
thoughts about her
try
future.
now that live music is potentially coming back and that's the only format of music I want to do. It's hard enough for me. I like recording, but I just love playing live. I love being able to interact with an audience and to see them get the experience of watching that performance and to kind of
Like
see-
feeling the music.
Yeah,
and
feel
being part of
the
it.
music. I mean, everyone knows that music is better live. So it's just the reality. So so I want to do live performances, and my objective when I get there, like my sort of plan, because I want to, goals for the end of this year, roughly an audience of 200 or more is the ideal.
You want to be able to like play a show where 200 people show up?
Yes, that's what I mean. Have a draw of 200. So I'm going to
Good goal.
get into bars. I'm going to get into bars and coffee shops and maybe the
Wherever
street.
they'll let you play.
And wherever, I mean, I'm just going to meet people. I've always been kind of not a shy person at all, but like when it comes to strangers, I've just been kind of like, I wait for them to approach me. And now I'm a little more comfortable with strangers, which is also, I've grown a lot in COVID. So I'm way more comfortable with strangers. So I just want to, I just want to talk to people. Life is way, way better when you're willing to just talk to people. And so I just want to talk to people. I want to be a light in their life, and I want them to be able to enjoy my music and the messages that I have to give through my music and connect with me through me just being me and telling my story and listening to theirs. So that's my ultimate goal with music. And to do that with as many people as possible. It's
your
just to
big
be
kind of
connecting with people and have
general
them
goal.
really feel and connect with me. And yeah, that's my general
Hoping
goal.
that Texas will be open a little bit more, because it supposedly is more than here anyway, right? And except for
Yeah.
that, we've learned some of the bigger cities are a little bit less
Where are you
less
going?
in that category, but you're going to be able to be kind of in a general area of 3 different big cities, right? Between
San Antonio, Austin,
and Houston.
Houston, probably. Yeah, Houston's 3 hours for me. They have I guess they have at least one big music festival that I've heard of, and I don't know if they're going to do it this year or not. Sure. I don't know what it's called.
That's what it's called.
South by Southwest. Yeah,
cool.
He's apparently done more research than I have.
Well, they invited you the COVID year. Last year during COVID hit, we were talking about you going down there and doing a solo act down there, just taking one of the side stages. And
that was the one.
Yeah, South by Southwest. And so that was a tough one because that was a good exposure opportunity for you, and
because a couple people already that you've performed up here with, in fact.
Yes.
Right. I don't know if it was.
Yes, Kelly Jekyll and Jeff Horty. Jeff Horty is the one that's actually in Texas, so that was the one we were gonna talk to him.
And he's been in that probably. That genre,
I mean, I would assume so. His band is really big down there.
His band is his band he used to be with. I don't know that he's with them anymore, but he's a kind of a bluegrass. It's a heavier version of it, but it's a bluegrass.
It's like bluegrass rock. It's cool music. I don't know.
Yeah, they were both the people you referenced were in the Pitch Perfect. So you can actually go there and type in their names and find them on YouTube playing in the Pitch Perfect 3 movie where his band was in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know.
That'll be a cool connection, but then also you're just hoping to be able to make some friends and connect into some of the other places also.
It's
maybe
sort of a dark world I'm entering into. It's very, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just going to try and trust God and see where it goes.
So that's my next question is, so what are you afraid of? What do you think goes through your mind with that?
Gosh.
Because I've heard you kind of be a little nervous about some aspects of, well, even just that you haven't lived away from us very much. You've lived in proximity, at least to us, most of your life, I think, by now, right? Even being married, you have been involved in our church or in our ministries and stuff. So that's different. That's going to be different.
I was going to say, I'm mostly, I guess, afraid of my own discernment and ability to find, although I'm grateful that, you said, your engineer, Jared and Kat, are going to be going
at
with
least
me
some familiar people, right? Nice.
But yeah,
I feel better about that that you guys are going together.
Jared is a big beef of a man. I know he can protect you and your husband.
That's
the
not
military training.
It's not about fear of protective. I'm worried about discernment of what
Jared,
churches and stuff. I want to go to a really good church that is genuine with their faith and has a similar
understanding of living that out,
the Bible and stuff. Yeah, and how you want to live that out. And I'm ready to meet new people and figure out how different people express their faith or what I mean by that is
to share your faith.
What God has called different people to. Yeah, and because not everyone I want to be in small churches and and just frequent bars and stuff like that. Not everyone's called to that. Some people are called to, I don't know.
You mean to get to meet people one-on-one like that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes.
Where you've got small environments that you can get to know people.
Where you can continuously connect with people.
Well, let's talk about your music a little bit then with that in mind, because you're talking about connecting to people and being in bars. You don't write worship music. I mean, you've written a worship song or two, but your music isn't worship music.
Yes, it
generally,
is.
I can imagine you.
There you go.
Well, I'm gonna let you clarify that for a second. Yeah, but
I
mean, you're not writing for Hillsong.
I was gonna say it's not what corporate worship music, is that the word, or
it's not worship music for congregations and churches.
Yeah, what was I gonna say?
Contabulate.
Contemporary Christian music. Yeah, or it's not. Yeah, it's not Christian music, and it's not like you said, congregational corporate worship music, but it's worship music. It's worship.
How would you define it then? You're saying it's worship music, but what do you mean? So it's
you can, from my perspective, you can write a song with no lyrics at all, and it's worship. It can be worship music. It's about where your heart is when you wrote it, and where your heart is when you're performing it. I think that anything that you're singing can even cease to be worship, even if it was written intended to be worship. Mm-hmm. It's about where your heart is. For me, every time I write a song, well, not every time, I've struggled sometimes, but for the most part, when I try to write a song, I'm writing it with an attitude of, I want this to glorify God, and to me that's worship. So
yeah,
It's all
I appreciate that, because that's where worship comes from, is from your response, your activity toward God. It's a response of his love to you, right? So it doesn't have to look like a certain thing, although, like you're saying, it's going to be used in different settings than, say, one that was specifically written for a congregation or something like that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that even in these, quote, bars that you've been in, that's not the approach. Isn't I'm there to drink and carouse or whatever. I'm there to tell a message that these people need, because they've come to this place where they want so badly to have fellowship with people. They want so badly to be accepted, to feel somebody's caring about them. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, that's the place they've found it. You know that that's come for you through Jesus and through the church atmosphere, because people that are seeking him tend to gather there instead. But this message can grab that heart wherever that heart may be, right? That's what I believe that you've said over and over. And I believe that's been the testimony of truth from your life. So I'm excited about that, because I know you, and I know that's not compromised in you. Even if you've written even a more secular song here or there, it's been true to. And I've also heard from so many different people how those messages come through your songs, whether they seem to be direct or not, I guess is the word I would use, right?
I think one of the things that is interesting to me, we can talk about secular music for a second, is
never mind, continue, sorry.
Well, what I was going to say is, I don't know that there is such a thing as secular music, in the sense that
I was going to say that.
Okay. In the sense that, because first off, I was going to say, you've got a song getting ready to release. Mm-hmm. It's going to be releasing June something.
June 4th. Nice Pockets. Keep your eyes out.
How are you doing on advertising that?
June 4th. Nice Pockets. Keep your eyes out.
You can find me on Instagram. And so.
And that's about your husband, right?
I was going to say, so how is that a glorifying God song? Tell us what it's about.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. So so that song is a cheeky song.
That's funny.
You're not supposed to say that, by the way.
Cheeky?
No, what you said earlier, I'm not going to repeat it, but you're not supposed to say that because he's very embarrassed by it. Okay,
whoops.
Well, she said that.
I said that. I was just meaning it's about an affection you have for your,
significant
I'm
other.
Qualifying because it's your husband, because you're married. It's a pure song, even though it could be taken for the secular world.
Well, okay. The song is actually about us keeping our hands off each other until we get married, but because
yeah.
But the reality of how difficult that actually is, and how many people don't, like, a lot of people talk about the value of waiting for marriage, and I feel like a lot less people talk about how difficult that actually is to accomplish, and how rare it is.
Yep.
And how many people slip up beforehand, in various ways, and
even if they're trying, even if they're wanting to preserve their lives or their hearts for Jesus, and after marriage to be intimate with someone, but it's difficult, right?
Yeah.
And so you were encountering that, and that's kind of neat, because most of your songs are written out of something you're really actually experiencing, struggling with.
Exactly.
Right?
So the song is just sort of like a tongue-in-cheek kind of joke song written about that. About
it also came.
It's hard to keep my hands off him because he's so dang good looking.
Also kind of funny, because Nice Pockets itself was the only URL, is that how it's called, that we could find that was cheap, that we could buy, so that if you couldn't figure out how to spell Micaiah, you could go to nicepockets.com.
It wasn't even written with that in mind. Yeah. We were coming up with coming up with URLs that we could use instead of my name, because my name is impossible to spell. And
how do you spell your name?
Micaiah. Sawyer. That one should be
Micaiah. And funny that's how I always spell it.
Does he want me to reveal all this? Okay, he's one of the most private human beings in the whole world.
Because he watches the podcast. When did you watch my podcast?
His name is Micah. Yes, his name is Micah, and my name is
Micaiah. That's how I always spell your name.
Which
is dumb, but I'm your mom. I have to figure out these little tricks.
Shoot, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, URLs and Hannah was like just throwing out. That's my sister Hannah. She was just throwing out random things and sayings, and she was like, nice pockets, and it was just a joke. And Dad was like, you could write a song about a butt. And I was like, about your husband's butt in a soup.
No, it's silly. Well, I think I even
20 minutes later.
Jean pockets,
song.
like, jeans or whatever.
Emerged
Anyway, it's kind of silly.
from the darkness. What?
Yes.
I said I think I had made a comment about like pockets on a jeans or whatever. We talked about that a little bit. So it's become your logo is the pocket of a jean,
slowly
which I
emerged.
thought was cute.
Yeah, if you check her Instagram out, there is a
Apparently, I
little
like the
ad
word
there with
merged.
some stranger walking around in it, and putting phones in his pocket.
Good friend of mine.
That was nice of him to offer his pockets.
Yeah,
So-
allow me to objectify him like
to
that.
the-
Was very sweet.
Yes, it was. To the point, though, about secular music. The music is oftentimes, I think, a reflection of the heart of the individual. And, one of the battles that you and I have had, when I say you and I that together we've tried to decide how do we want to put forward the image. And Tanya, all three, all of us as a family, how do we take our daughter's gift and all of our children really, but yours is such a gift that can be such an exposure-oriented gift, out in front of the public eye, put you on a stage much like me, but with more than 2 listeners, 200 we're going for right now, to make sure that you can be out there without expressing yourself truthfully, but without being a worship leader, because you weren't feeling called to be a worship leader necessarily. You were saying, I have a message of hope for a hurting world, right? And that kind of how we wound up putting that. So the battle was, how do you be in I'm going to use the word secular for lack of another defining word. How do you go into a secular world, a world that is not of Christ, and be there and perform with songs that kind of have, there's a little double entendre there. It feels like, it's not, you're saying what it is.
Talk a little bit about,
how would you
go back
what's your
to your
question?
art school time and how that mattered to you, what you felt like God put in your heart to be to them, because you didn't want to come in and just lay out a Jesus message in the middle of that school, which was very secular, very even liberal, whatever, and yet you felt you had a message to give them. I remember you talking about that, and the song Breathe became a big deal then because it was to you a message of just breathe, to you the breath was the breath of Christ that gives you breath at all. Mm-hmm. But anyway, tell us a little bit about that. If you remember that, do you remember that time and how God kind of spurred your heart to be that in that environment?
Yeah, I was a little, I was figuring myself out too, it was high school. So,
sure.
So I was trying to, I was fresh out of homeschool. I had never really engaged much with people who weren't raised the same way I was, with 2 very loving, very committed parents who have a strong faith that they're very passionate about. They all have their various stories. A lot of them had broken homes, and some of them had had homes that they would probably call sufficient, but then I would, you'd hear them complain about them in various ways, and my heart would break over and over again, because I was, truly I was privileged, to have you guys. So so the only thing I had coming in was my values and my standards, and a lot of them were really put off by that, and I had to learn how to kind of like soften up and see from their perspective, and so yeah, that was my heart just I had countless times where I would just break down, and their struggles were heavy on me. Like I would just break down and cry at random times, and I would go down a constant hole of thinking about all the things that they were struggling with. So,
but I remember you saying it was so important to you to get to them.
Yes.
That hope that you felt.
And that it sounds like that shaped your music. It shaped how you wrote.
Yeah. And what I was struggling with, I think, the most with in high school was nobody wanted me to talk about Jesus. Nobody wanted me to talk about my answer. So all I could do was cry and write songs, which is what God's given me. And they wanted to hear my music. They didn't, they wouldn't want to hear me talk about Jesus, but they would want to hear my music. So I didn't explicitly want to put Jesus' name in every song, but but I at least wanted to sneak in the themes. And, you know, I said my initial mission was I'm going to put in my values and the hope, and if they want to know where my hope comes from, talk to me and I'll give them a straight answer.
Yeah, and you got a chance a couple of times. Specifically, I remember a lady asking you about the Perfect in Progress song that spoke to her directly, and you were able to tell her that was why you wrote that, was for people like her who were broken and torn up by the world, kind of, and you knew that they needed Jesus, but that answer for them, you know, was that they can find themselves as not having to be perfect, but to find him as their perfection, and, you know, the pieces of that were progress, whatever. But I remember you talking about, well, and you know what I talked about on Sunday was the smell, how we smell. I think people noticed that you bear the aroma of Christ, because people would talk about it. They still do. I referenced that a little bit ago, how they know just listening to your music. The first guy that helped you when we got to Washington eventually said, "All these songs are about Jesus, aren't they?" I mean, like, none of them. I remember him making that comment to your dad. There was, you know, songs like "Keep On" or songs like,
which is what we use in our podcast.
Yeah, I was trying to think of some of the other ones that are just not. Well, even "Waiting." It was Brian. Like even "Waiting."
That's funny.
That one's a little bit more obvious of a song, and, you know, in its message, and it's directly from scripture. Yeah, but it's funny that the rest of your songs really aren't quite as obvious. But Brian saw that and knew it, even though he was fighting God on every side. Still is, as far as I know.
Well, and I think that says something about the fact that people aren't necessarily opposed to hearing hope and hearing the gospel. They're sometimes opposed to the way we deliver it as Christians. And you know, Jesus didn't lead in with, "I am the Messiah, bow to me." He led with compassion. He led with meeting their needs where they're at. And so I think like I said, I think it's interesting. I was laughing in my heart just now. I was laughing.
He did shout, "Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is near," a bunch.
No, that was actually
John the Baptist.
So I was going to say, I'm laughing because this may be, of all the interviews that Micaiah does, this will probably be one of the interviews that she will do, few interviews that she will do, where she will find out more about herself from her interviewers and what they remember about her than she will tell anybody about. I was laughing because I'm sitting here going, I remember when you did this and it meant this, and she's like, "That's right, it did mean that." And so, but the reason I say that is one of the other subjects I want to touch on is about the secular song idea, and the thing that is that music is oftentimes, and its meaning is oftentimes in the eye of the beholder, in the sense that when you write songs, and you're putting out a blatant pat answer kind of message. And worship songs are that. They're supposed to be. We're worshiping God. We're telling God who, you know, we're proclaiming gratitude. We're petitioning, so it's very clear what's happening in that. But when you're writing to a broad audience, you're writing what's coming from your heart. And what you just said, the aroma of Christ is on her, because that's who you are. And so people can kind of sniff out Jesus. They're going to pick it up. But the way the music's coming across has been hits people differently. What I want to know is, can you tell us a story or two? Can you think of some times where people came up and told you about your song and what it meant to them, and you walked away going, "I had no idea"?
I mean, well, yeah.
On the spot, go.
Well,
five examples, go.
Well, Mom brought up one time where I got a phone call from someone I did not know, and like my friend warned me ahead of time this person was going to call because they knew them, but like they didn't want to reveal their identity or something. And so I just got a phone call from this person who talked. She called me and she told me her whole story, and she told me essentially that my song saved her life. And that blew my mind.
How old were you?
I was probably 15.
Okay.
Or 16. And there was that. You did tell me at one point what soon meant to you, and about, you know, waiting and longing for Jesus to come again. And that did strike me, because I think when I wrote it, I was thinking, no, it's going to be about my future husband or something. But I loved that way more. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I want this song to be about. And that, and then I would say many different people have given me different things that Dangerous Joy meant to them, different ways.
That's an interesting song. That's got a lot of legs on that particular kind of story, doesn't it?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, because a lot of people have found courage from this or that, and probably even things you didn't really think they probably ought to find courage from. But at the same time, some people have found that the joy itself that they've longed for has felt, like they had to make some sacrifices or some big kind of risks.
Make sacrifices for joy. Mm-hmm. Joy isn't joy unless you've gone through suffering.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of funny because the silly nature of that song and the fact that when you wrote it, it was a big deal to you, but you were just trying to make a decision to quit a job, right?
Yeah. I was just,
You were like a teleoperator
I wrote it
after an undisclosed company.
No, I wrote it after
for.
I quit a job. I called Mom having a panic attack in the parking lot about going into that job, and and I ended up just leaving. And then, officially
really
quitting the
hard
job.
I've had people when we've been at shows and stuff, I've had people tell me, because you did that show when you won Sound Off, moment to brag, won Sound Off, in Seattle, and I can't remember who it was, but it was, I know who it was. When we went back the next year for the John Fogerty show, what was the name of our the guy who made sure we didn't go anywhere we weren't supposed to go? Marcus? No, Dave. Anyway.
Thomas?
Escort guy?
No. You remember how we should...
Shoot.
If you watch this podcast, which I'm sure you don't. Sorry. So anyway.
I think...
If he was watching, he's not watching.
Probably still at Mopop.
At 100. Travis.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Engineers going, I knew that an hour ago. Jared. So anyway, but he told me going somewhere, he said something about loving your music to me. I think we were walking down a hallway. I don't remember where particularly. We were at the Pop Culture Museum, and he said, I love Dangerous Joy, and that song has gotten me through some difficult times. And I'm like, really? Interesting.
That's so cool.
And I mean, it wasn't like he elaborated on it, but I've heard that kind of sentiment. So I also know that I heard that from someone else around that same period of time, which is why I think that song has got such enduring power, because it's, again,
so many different
it's
angles
broadly
on
written.
the hearer.
It's not like you're saying, here's the answer. It's saying life is difficult. There are answers. Hang in there. It's worth the risk to take that leap. There's danger involved in finding joy. And so there was.
Yeah, there's a lot of songs out there. I know what you're saying about depending on the hearer, because I'll hear them, and I'll feel like they're worship songs because they, I'm trying to think of an example, but it's literally just a secular song, and some of them include some song words like prayer or whatever. A lot of secular songs do, so you can tell that people are kind of resonating with the same themes. We're praying out, or crying out for this, or we're praying for this to happen or that, whatever. But there's been a few of them that I feel like are much more blatantly about my relationship with God, or the things I want to say to Him, or the things I want, whatever. Then I'm sure that they ever wrote it meaning. So I think that's interesting that you say that. And definitely, Micaiah, your songs have taken their own meanings in different settings and with different people.
Yeah, I was gonna say I hope that a lot with my music, that it'll mean something different to different people. Of course, regardless, I want it to mean hope, and I want it to mean the right kind of hope, ideally. Which I don't know what that means, but yeah, you know what I mean. Not the kind of confidence to go and finally cut someone off who doesn't deserve it, but the kind of confidence to maybe tell the truth to someone that you were afraid to tell the truth to, or
take a courageous
take a leap that you were previously nervous about or unsure of. To act on faith instead of fear in general.
That's a really good point. As a matter of fact, it's such a good point. I'm going to take a moment right now and say we're going to talk about that continuing at this table right here in the next podcast. So you have to wait 3 days to hear where we're going to go next. But what we're going to do next is, Micaiah, I want us to talk a little bit about what we were talking about earlier when you first sat down is living in difficult times and trying to be a public figure. And so next time what I want us to do is pick that up. We're going to do that. So I want to say thank you for watching Ask Mom and Dad. And we're going to keep talking and see you in a minute or in a couple of days.
Keep on